Hey y'all, I just beat Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, and here's what I think about it. In this video, I'll be talking about the story and gameplay. Quick note about spoilers, I will not be including any story spoilers, however I will talk about this game's basic setup, as well as mentioning some specific films this game adapts. Despite this, I'm confident you can watch this video before playing the game. Batman is my second favorite superhero of all time, right behind Spider-Man, of course. While I may not be well versed in his comic run, I am familiar with his appearances in movies and games. The Batman is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, and the Arkham series is one of my favorite game series of all time. On top of all that, last year I played 17 different LEGO games and played the Skywalker Saga in its release year. When LEGO Batman 4 was announced last year, I felt like it was the perfect game for me. LEGO Batman 4 is another modern entry in the LEGO games series that takes inspiration from Batman media I am incredibly familiar with. I loved the Skywalker Saga when it came out and was incredibly confident that TT Games could do it all again with Batman this time, especially considering how good the first two LEGO Batman games were to begin with. Thankfully, upon playing Legacy of the Dark Knight, I can say that this is the perfect blend of the older LEGO games with the new style found in the Skywalker Saga, all while having all the best moments from Batman's many films. LEGO games are not particularly well known for their story. They all have them, but they're usually either just recaps of movies or an afterthought. Because of this, I was surprised to hear that Legacy of the Dark Knight would be telling an original story just like the three LEGO Batman games before it, while also paying tribute to the many Batman films at the same time. This game was marketed as one original Batman story that still recreates iconic moments from the films like LEGO is used to, which is essentially the best of both worlds. While I do think the end result is decently impressive, I don't think this game is much more than a standard affair for a LEGO game story. Legacy of the Dark Knight is broken up into 6 different chapters and a prologue, with each essentially covering a different movie. For example, the prologue takes inspiration from Batman Begins, Chapter 1 is The Batman, etc. I actually think this game does a really great job at covering each of these films, despite how short each chapter can be. Chapter 2, for example, which covers Tim Burton's Batman, is fantastic and includes some of the best moments from his 2 Batman films. Each chapter feels different, not just because of the story, but because it takes the visual and tonal style from the film it's adapting. Characters will automatically change into the appropriate costume depending on what film, and the chapter levels will almost be one-to-one recreations of iconic locations from said film. It all just feels so unique to play, as Batman has such a long film history dating all the way back to the 1966 television show, which this game also references as well. The Batman filmography can be easily separated into distinct eras, each with their own stylistic choices, and this game does a fantastic job at adapting each one of them. My main issue with this story is how it actually ties all of these distinct films and eras together. The overall original plot is in the background for most of the game, with it really only being focused on during the start and end of each chapter before it starts trying to follow the plot of a specific film. It's just that the connecting threads between each of these chapters are so small that I personally found it hard to actually care about. This game's basic premise is that it follows Batman from the start of his career all the way to when his hair is starting to turn gray, showing all the people he meets along the way. It's actually pretty standard for a Batman affair, where he meets Commissioner Gordon, Catwoman, Robin, etc. Each chapter focuses on him meeting a new person who acts as the Player 2 character for that chapter, and Batman learning to work with them. It just kinda gets a bit formulaic by the end of the game, and because of that, this story once again is just another Batman learns to love his Bat family kind of story. Isn't that exactly what the LEGO Batman movie was about? This is a largely character-driven story for most of its runtime. However, all the films do get brought together in a more traditional way. At the end of the game, something comes out of nowhere and ties everything together. However, because this game is mostly just adapting plots of movies most of the time, it feels out of place. The biggest issue is that the ending sequence is also adapting a Batman film, yet the game tries to make it connect to all the other Batman films, where in reality, it doesn't at all. I appreciate that this game tried to do more than just the typical Bat family storyline, but its new addition just makes the end of the game feel a bit rushed. Thankfully, this game's pacing is mostly great, especially when it comes to story content. While each chapter only focuses on one era of Batman, it never stays on anything for too long. Each chapter is only about 60 to 90 minutes and 2 to 3 missions long. I do think occasionally the game can overutilize the open world between missions, where it'll force you to do things that feel inconsequential to the story. However, this is rarely an issue. The story's biggest issue is the pacing's best asset, however. Because this is technically an original Batman story that takes inspiration from all the different eras of Batman, the game does not technically have to adapt each film perfectly. The second chapter of the game follows both Burton films in just 3 levels, for example, yet it still feels like a complete story. I really think this is what TT was going for with the original story idea. With an original story, the game is able to cut down and simplify each film into just a few missions, while still including all of its iconic visuals and set pieces. I also want to quickly talk about the humor in this game, as it is always an important part of LEGO games. Like every other LEGO game, this game does a perfect job of balancing serious storytelling with unserious humor. What I like so much about this game, though, is the amount of references and pop culture humor it has. Of course, this game is filled with Batman references in the open world, the Batcave, and all his collectible costumes, with my favorite being how you get to build the Batman animated series LEGO set in-game. The game also has a lot more pop culture references than I can recall from most LEGO games. These can include FNAF, American Psycho, or even music. One reference I thought I picked up on was an enemy saying "bye bye boy bye" during combat, which I took as a reference to the Ariana Grande song "Bye." All these references come together to make a really great time, not just as a Batman fan, but as a fan of wider pop culture in general. I do think sometimes the humor can skew a bit too young though, with the game having too much toilet humor for my liking, but overall I found this game to be right in line tonally with the other LEGO games. Legacy of the Dark Knight's story is an overall mixed bag. On one hand, I think this game does a fantastic job at adapting all the different eras in the Dark Knight's filmography, making the best set pieces from each film playable. On the other hand, a generic overall story with little connecting threads make it hard to actually care about the overall plot. I don't think a LEGO game has to have a gripping story or anything, but I wish I could have something to actually care about, like the stories in LEGO Marvel Superheroes or LEGO Batman 2. Despite this, I think the fantastic recreations of the Batman films will be more than enough for fans. Gameplay is where LEGO games really shine, and this game is no different. Unlike the rest of the series, however, this game carries on the modern design trend that was started in the previous major LEGO game, the Skywalker Saga. When it was first released, everyone loved the Skywalker Saga, myself included, for how it elevated the LEGO formula into something new and refreshing after over a decade of the same thing over and over. In recent years, however, people have really grown to dislike that game, and I think I know why. The Skywalker Saga is a great game, yet it's not a good LEGO game. It doesn't really feel like a LEGO game, and is instead a more combat-focused experience aimed at older audiences. Legacy of the Dark Knight continues this trend, even being the first LEGO game to have difficulty options. This game takes heavy inspiration from the Arkham games in many ways, to the point where Rocksteady themselves had a part in making this game. This game mirrors Arkham in many ways, from combat to stealth to even level design in some places. It all comes together to create a really unique gameplay experience that emulates Arkham but doesn't fully get there. The combat is essentially identical to Arkham, with its free flow combat, with dodges and counters, and even a lot of the same enemy types such as brutes and shield enemies. The combat here, especially later in the game, feels amazing. Legacy of the Dark Knight is not the first LEGO game to put a higher emphasis on combat, as many of their later superhero games also have counter and combo meters, but this is the first LEGO game to actually make combat feel good and fun. Once you get the hang of it, it feels almost just as good as Arkham. Gadgets make a return here too, and they also are ripped straight from Arkham, however they are much simpler here. Batman, for example, is only able to use his Batarangs and Batclaw in combat. While I miss the wider selection of the Arkham games, the gadgets that are here still allow for the same uses. They're used in puzzles, of course, in various ways, but are also used to deepen the combat sandbox. Enemies can be stunned with the Batarang, letting you hit them quicker, and the Batclaw can bring enemies to you. Every character has their own two gadgets, most of which can be used in combat, which helps add a bit of variety to the characters as well. It may be simplistic, but just adding two simple gadgets adds just a little depth for players who want it. Stealth is unfortunately not as good here as it is in Arkham. Enemies do not have guns, obviously, since this is a LEGO game, so you aren't really incentivized to stay high above the ground like you are in the Arkham games. If you get caught, you could get into a fight, unlike Arkham, where you could potentially die, giving stealth a lot more weight to it. On top of that, enemy vision cones are not very wide, meaning you can sometimes walk right up to an enemy and kill them without having to try much at all. It's not bad, and I'm really glad it's here for a LEGO game, as this game would feel strange without it. My main issue with the stealth though is that the level design is just usually not made for stealth, but instead for big fights. Legacy of the Dark Knight does include a lot of elements from Arkham level design, such as gargoyles and air vents to crawl in. My main issue is that these elements are underutilized, which just kinda breaks the stealth system. Despite how easy the stealth is, many levels are just not able to be completed fully in stealth. There may not be a perch point above an enemy, or multiple enemies may not be near each other, which means you're only able to take out a few enemies at most before getting spotted. This kind of leaves the stealth feeling like more of an afterthought to me, as it's underutilized and seemingly only here because it's in Arkham. So, if this game is trying its best to emulate Arkham with a higher focus on combat, then why does it succeed in feeling like a LEGO game when the Skywalker Saga doesn't? Well, that's because this game actually isn't trying to be the next Arkham game, it's just trying to make an Arkham Light, essentially. Besides the combat and stealth, this is actually a pretty typical LEGO game, with puzzles to solve and things to build. By adding in some simplified elements from the Arkham series into the existing LEGO formula, it allows this game to feel fresh and new, while also not feeling completely different like the Skywalker Saga. While combat has a much bigger emphasis here in Legacy of the Dark Knight, the classic LEGO stuff still shines through. Puzzle solving and building is still a huge part of this game, much more so than the Skywalker Saga. The tone of the world and story, the collectible hunting, the classic LEGO gameplay, all work together with the new Arkham stuff to create something new that still fits in with the rest of the LEGO games. This game feels like a classic LEGO game with Arkham stuff on top of it, while the Skywalker Saga feels like the LEGO formula was rebuilt around a more action-focused game for a more adult audience. Because of this, Legacy of the Dark Knight is a great example of how modern LEGO games can evolve without losing what made them so special in the first place. My least favorite part of pretty much every LEGO game is how repetitive they are. The gameplay systems are really simplistic, so it kind of just depends on how much you like the source material of the game it was adapting. Playing most of the LEGO games back to back got really tiresome, and towards the end, the only way I could get myself to actually play them was by sitting on the couch and watching Love Island at the same time. Because of the added emphasis on combat, however, the pacing here is so much better. The three modes of combat, stealth, and puzzle solving all work together to make the game much more engaging for the player, regardless on if you like Batman or not. On top of this, the game also lets you customize your experience with the difficulty options. This game has 3 difficulty options, with the easiest being the typical LEGO game experience, and the hardest being a more combat-focused experience. I think this is the perfect solution to solving the issues from the Skywalker saga, as it lets all types of players enjoy this game. The LEGO fans get another fantastic LEGO game, and those who may not love the LEGO formula, like myself, get to have a much more typical gaming experience. The middle difficulty option provides a balanced experience of them both, and is what I personally played on, and what I recommend everyone do so as well. Like every other LEGO game, collectible hunting is a huge part of this experience. Here in Legacy of the Dark Knight, however, I actually kind of prefer its unique approach to it. Since there's only 7 characters in this game, you're much more likely to have the correct character on you at any time, meaning you can actually unlock more without having to go back to a level in free play mode. I got a ton of red bricks and collectibles here, which made me a lot more invested in the levels this time around, rather than just knowing to come back again in free play. One massive change here in Legacy of the Dark Knight is the removal of unlockable characters. This is a key element of past LEGO games, and seeing the entire character roster is one of my favorite things for each game. Because of the deeper combat system and gadgets, however, each character has to be more customized, and thus it's impossible to have such a large character roster. I've seen a lot of people complain about this, but I actually think the unlockable costumes are just as good. There's 100 different costumes to unlock, and for me at least, they scratch that same itch of the character roster. It's a really great solution that keeps the identity of the older LEGO games while adapting to this game's new systems. Legacy of the Dark Knight features multiple skill trees taken directly from Arkham, which is new for the LEGO series. These skills range from deepening the combat, making collectible hunting easier, and even upgrading each individual gadget. I think this is another great change, as once again, it keeps the spirit of LEGO collectible hunting while also adapting to this game's more combat-central approach. I do think many of the skills are things that should be unlocked from the start, such as the ability to kill enemies while perched on a gargoyle. Besides that though, I absolutely love the addition of the skill trees and was always excited when I got a new skill brick. This game has one huge issue, however, and it's one that made me not want to play the game for days after it came out, despite spending extra on the early access. The start of this game is just terrible. The prologue and first chapter of this game specifically are essentially just extended tutorials. The thing is that LEGO games are so mechanically simple that I didn't really need all these tutorials. It just drags on and on and on and on, teaching you about stealth and combat and gadgets and puzzle solving and what have you. I understand that this is a more mechanically complex game than the usual LEGO game, and it could very well be someone's first game that they've ever played, but I just feel like there has to be some better way to do this. The story is also just finding its footing here, and like I said earlier, the story has some issues with its connective threads. It took me a while to actually get what this game was trying to go for, so for these early hours, I was just left so confused as to what this game was trying to do. You go from Batman Begins to the Batman with no separation in between, and it doesn't help at all that the game adapts the Batman the worst out of all the films in my my opinion. There's one level that takes place like in a funhouse or something that just does not match the tone or feel of that film at all. The LEGO humor as well is at its most immature, going over the edge of too unserious and hurting the tone of the overall game. Finally, because this section is mostly tutorials, the gameplay is so simplistic. You have no skill upgrades at all, it takes about 45 minutes to unlock the Batarang, and you're just fighting the most basic enemies. All that mechanical depth I was talking about earlier is just not here, and it just feels like a normal LEGO game with combat that looks good but doesn't feel good to play. Chapter 1 also focuses on Commissioner Gordon, who is the least interesting second player gadget-wise in my opinion, and is just boring to solve puzzles with. Finally, you don't unlock the open world until like 90 minutes in, and when you do, you can't even use your glider yet. All of these things, the overused tutorials, poor start to the story, and overly simplistic gameplay, come together to create a really lackluster opening. I think all LEGO games suffer from this issue, and Legacy of the Dark Knight is no different. Legacy of the Dark Knight proves that a LEGO game can still work in the modern day. Its story does a fantastic job at recreating the best moments from all the different eras of Batman films, despite the original story behind it all not tying it together the best. The gameplay is a great emulation of the Arkham formula with fluid combat and a passable stealth system. Despite that, this game still feels like a LEGO game thanks to the perfect balance of combat with puzzle solving and collectible hunting. A weak first act does bring the experience down for me though, and could be a huge barrier of entry for some people. Even with that, I still think this is a great game and one that all Batman fans will enjoy. After completing this game, I'm left thinking a few things. LEGO games still have a lot of room to grow, and I love this new style of them. I think TT Games should continue making more authored games specific to the IP it's adapting, rather than the formulaic games of the past. My biggest takeaway, however, is that we need a new Arkham game. I had a great time with this game, but it's not even close to Arkham. This is a great LEGO game with many Arkham elements, but not close to the real thing. Until the day that we do get the next Arkham game, however, I think this will be just enough to tide people over. I recommend LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, 8 out of 10. Well, y'all, that's my review of LEGO Batman 4. If you like this review, please make sure to like, comment, or even subscribe. I'd also really appreciate it if you could check out my TikTok at goodusername011. That's all I have for today, but I do want to take the last few moments to talk about me and my channel. Alright y'all, so I have a bit of a longer thing today. I have a lot of things to talk about. So, I'm sorry this video took so long. Obviously I had to wait for the game to come out after Saros, and then like I said, I just didn't want to play it for like multiple days for a few reasons, but mostly because I was just bored of this game. But I'm happy with this script. I think it's good. I'm happy with how my voice recording is. Like, I messed up like twice or 3 times maybe. I don't know. I think it's good. Okay. So, first thing I want to talk about is that this will be my last video until I start my internship. So I'm recording this on Wednesday night, and I start my internship on Monday. So yeah, unfortunately, I probably won't have enough time to make a new video. I've been saying that like, oh, I might stop for like the 10 weeks. I don't think so anymore. I've been waking up earlier and earlier, and like, I think I should be able to have some time to like get home and work on this stuff for a bit. But yeah. So I just want to say that though, like uploads are just 100% going to slow down, especially with how busy I'm going to be in the month of June and July. I'm moving into a new home in late June, and then sometime in July, I'm moving out of my apartment. So a lot of new stuff. But what are the next videos I want to make? I actually have a lot. So after this, first off is going to be the 007 James Bond review. I haven't played it yet, unfortunately. I really want to, but I just wasn't able to. Hopefully by the time this is uploaded, I'll be able to have started that game, but I don't know. That will be my first review. That's my highest priority. After this, I want to make a ranking of every LEGO game that I've played. I have a pre-made script from before this game came out that is already that. It's from like months ago, but I'm gonna just add this game to that and upload it, right? So, another thing is Destiny is over. That's another reason why I didn't play this game, because I was upset about that. Destiny means a lot to me, actually. I don't know if I really shared that much on this channel, but Destiny means quite a bit to me. So I'm thinking I'll make a video about what Destiny means to me. I don't know what form that video will take yet, but I do know I want to release it on June 9th if I can. Realistically, that's not going to happen, but we'll see. After that is going to be the Crimson Desert review. In the time when I beat Saros and when this game came out, between that, I played a lot of Crimson Desert, and I'm about halfway through chapter 9 now. I have about a page worth of like a draft of like bullet points and things I want to talk about, so that will definitely get a review. That might be a long one, unfortunately. I had such a fucking hard time recording this video, bro. Like, I'm so hot in here. I wanted to wear my new bubble hoodie, and it's like such a cute color, and but it like, you can't really see it. You can't tell this is Bubble from Digital Circus, right? But whatever. I'm so hot. I had to take so many breaks while recording this. Like, oh my god. But yeah. Crimson Desert, and then Bubsy. I'm gonna just wait to play Bubsy until after the Crimson Desert video is out. And then, oh, I forgot one. Speaking of Digital Circus, I Have No Mouth, I Must Scream. I already have a review for that written. Another old video from months ago. I want to try and release that video on the day the finale drops. Yes, I have seen some of the leaks, unfortunately, and no spoilers, know that I Have No Mouth doesn't relate to the finale, but whatever, right? Like, it'll be a good time as ever to release it. What else? After that, Bubsy, like I said, and then finally, Assassin's Creed 4 Remake review. June and July and even August like seem to be not too packed. I know the first week of June we're gonna have a bunch of game showcases, so we'll see if that changes, but I'm gonna try to just get those videos out over the summer. And yeah, and like, I don't know, maybe I'll do some album reviews and music reviews or something, but I want to get through my backlog. So yeah, but I'm gonna keep trying to go with this, you guys, and like I don't know, I had a fun time making this video, so hopefully, you know, uploads aren't delayed too much, but we'll see. I'll see you guys with James Bond hopefully soon. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.